You know, and alignment is a good thing to talk about. You know, it's a good thing to explore. What does it mean? Are you keeping it lawful as per a society, or are you looking at it as I'm a structured person as opposed to impulsive, which would be chaotic. I am a selfless person more than I am selfish, hence good or evil. And there's other ways that we could look at it too. If you want to do that with Dark Wolf Spillheart, you're welcome to do that. Just remember, Spillheart, your character's alignment doesn't justify actions that will impact other people. If you walk up to someone's house and set it on fire because you thought that would be funny, as, you know, the local knights or guards or army or whatever, as they come and arrest you, you know, you can't just tell them, but I'm chaotic neutral. This is what I do. Because you still burnt down a house. Alignment doesn't get you out of responsibility for your actions. Oh, I understand, Swifty. I'm not upset. I'm not, you know, it's not the end of the world or anything, in my opinion. If it makes sense to you all, then play with what you have. Although, you know, alignment's a good is a good segue here, because I did want to talk about the party we made this week. Because you know what? We have 2 chaotic evil halflings, a neutral evil gnome, a neutral good gnome, and a chaotic good dwarf in the party. Oh, gotcha, Spillheart. Now, in prior weeks, when we do a party comparison or an examination, I have a worksheet drawn up where we compare the scores. We draw bonds in a very visual, a very colorful style, and we discuss we discuss this in like a one segment at a time, kind of a mechanical effect going down. We do a SWOT analysis, SWOT, for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as we form a character sheet for the party. What I want to do this week is break up the normal content of creating an outline for a story that we're going to set in Waterdeep for these characters. But I also want to examine the characters as a part of that outline. And there's a writing technique that I want to introduce. Well, some of you might already be familiar with it, depending on your exposure to writing or your profession or your degree. But there's a writing technique that I think can help us bridge that gap between just doing a party analysis and also doing a plot outline for the type of story that we want to present. Spillhard asks, is there a mechanical purpose to alignment, or is it more for character building? In 5th edition, there are some slight mechanical interactions with alignment, but it is not as prevalent as it once was in older editions, or as it is in Pathfinder. Swifty asks, can I use the 3rd edition Barbarian? There are discrepancies between 3rd edition and 5th, Swifty. If you're playing in 5th, my recommendation to you, stick to 5th. If you want to take some sort of inspiration from 3rd, but try to divorce the mechanics of 3rd edition from 5th. And if you want to play a 5th edition game, play a 5th edition game. And if you want to play a 3rd edition game, play a 3rd edition game. Pin says in depth. I'm sorry. What did I miss? What was in depth? Some are cosmically tied. Yes. 5th Ed has rolled back most of the concepts of alignment as an elemental force. There are still some traces of good as a force, law, etc., but they're mild. Yes. Scareman, you're going to play Starfinder? Well, hey, by the way, thank you for joining us, Scareman, and talking. What, does something have you particularly aggravated, or... I mean, you play Starfinder, play whatever role-playing game you want, but is there something in particular that, was really... that's really compelling you? In comparing of parties? Swifty, I see what you're doing, but I don't know. This is stuff that you should be talking to your DM about. If 3rd edition scores are different than 5th edition, especially in the late game. So Pindeath, you were saying something about the comparing of parties in depth from our prior worksheets, or what's the context to your comment? I'm sorry that I missed it. And for Swifty, I recommend this. Try that as your standard array at level 1. And then apply your racial modifiers and go from there. I would be very cautious about taking 3rd edition mechanics forward into 5th edition, Swifty. Alright, so the method that I wanted to introduce to you all that is going to help us examine... from the player worksheets. Okay, so Pindeath, thank you for remembering that, and I hope that you like those. What we're going to do this week is going to be slightly different. Yes, Pneumonica, I agree as well. We are going to use a technique here. It's going to be called it's not going to. It is called the Snowflake Method. And it gets its name... Here, I'll paint. Because we are going to start with a core concept. And then we are going to build out. And suddenly, from our core, our story is going to grow. And yet, it's going to be one entity. Despite us starting with this central grain, and it's going to be growing from there. Stick Beholder. Hey, Risky. Good to see you. Fluffy, mixing rules across editions just doesn't work well. If there's some particular ability you want, it might already exist, but if it doesn't, your DM might be willing to add it for you. Yeah, so I would take idea and inspiration, but mechanics can be a lot more dangerous, Swifty Healers. So, what I wanted to do with this method of story writing, if you're a DM and you're wondering, oh, so what do I do? As we made our party, despite random number generation, I think is going to get along really, really well together. The Uber Modron, it's right there. See the telltale snowflake formation. All right, XCat, have fun networking. I hope you make a good connection. And so, as we grow our snowflake, we're going to take this in a step-by-step process. We're going to start small, and we're going to let the ice crystals just form and grow and add and make connections. Hey, King, I say just go nuts and mix all the rules you want, Swifty Healers, and see what does and doesn't work. That looks a little better. There we go. Learn through drilling straight through the terrible bedrock. King, in Minecraft, you never dig straight down. That's dangerous, man. So I want to use this snowflake method here for story creation. A one-sentence summary of the plot. Now, we'll get to that. But let's take a look at our characters. And I think we can find something that is a common theme among them. You got to get that sweet adamantite. But the dwarves always dig too deep, and they awaken ancient evils beneath the earth, King. So here we have a noble. He is generous to the common folk, but he does see them as beneath him. Therefore, he sees it as a part of his duty to be generous towards them, because he is above them. Why do you think I'm always so grumpy? Yeah, people digging you out of your bed. You gotta find another place for your phylactery, King. If you haven't hit Balrog, dig deeper. You know how long it takes to bury yourself under the greatest mountain in the land? And yet the PCs or even NPCs always seem to find it. It's uncanny. Here's a hint. There wasn't a greatest mountain in the land till I wanted to sleep. He is going to face any challenge to win the approval of his family. So here's something that we can consider. Approval of his noble family. And in fact, he does have a bit of a selfish streak. He does believe that the world revolves around him. Right? Here I am. I'm doing what I need to do as a noble. And yet I'm not being recognized for it. My family isn't taking me in or accepting me as one of their own, or in the position that I feel I should be in within the family. Spillart says, is that a dragon, a beast of the skies, a free being like no other living in a dwarf's treasury? Okay, Smog, I see you. You do you, girl. You do you. Drawn to it like a magnet, King. Yeah. You know, the more you want to try and hide something away and secret it, people are just drawn to it. Like it's like a ley line. Some ley line of fate or magic or coincidence or serendipity. Now let's look at Kirsch. Actually, here, let's do this. Yeah, I know Spillheart. All right, so the plot point here for Kirsch. I face problems head on. A simple, direct solution is a best path to success. I can stare down a hellhound without flinching. Independence. When people follow orders blindly, they embrace a kind of tyranny. I'll never forget the crushing defeat my company suffered, or the enemies who dealt it. I made a terrible mistake in battle that cost many lives. I would do anything to keep that mistake a secret. Must keep a terrible secret of his service. Now, don't forget either that we were talking about some possible other background, backstory, fluff, or aspects to the characters that we can entwine. I'm looking for one sentence that we can have a couple considerations attached to, and see where these 5 characters are going to point us. Syrav Droll. Who clearly isn't Lord Varys from Game of Thrones. I'm rude to people who lack commitment. I'm full of witty aphorisms. I'm very greedy. I owe my guild a great debt for forging me into the person I am today, and I would kill to acquire a noble title. Yes, a gold dragon indeed, Darkwolf. Swifty, my DMs say if I don't like Path of the Berserkers for one turn, the next game I can go Path of the Zealot. I'm thinking before next game, because one of both the abilities of Zealot I like, but I don't get one thing. It's say take extra damage if I'm raging to 1d6 plus half your barbarian level. The extra damage is necrotic. I'm not familiar offhand with those different paths, Swifty. So off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. If they're willing to let you play it out for a session, that's good testing. I would sit down and make sure you review both of them and what they mean to you. And while you still may have the option, pretend like you don't and say, you know what, I've considered both of them and I really like what this one has to offer. Was that mistake flinching while staring down a hellhound? Says Spillheart. Maybe. And in fact, that hellhound, as I said, these one sentences are going to have some support for, I think, a direction we can take our party. So that hellhound mention, I think, can come in handy for what we want to do. Elena was our courtesan druid. Nobody stays angry at me or around me for long. I'm a hopeless romantic. She's creative. And then, of course, we talked about her lost love. And I will do anything to win fame and renown. Lastly, we have Urafina, who I believe was Zulurpai's name suggestion. Who's neutral good. I'm going to prove that I'm worthy of a better life. We have taken one sentence from a grand background for each of the 5 characters. And we have found perhaps a common thread through them all. Noirit, and he wants the approval of his noble family. He wants to ascend. He wants his land and titles. Even if it was something bad, or maybe he was adopted, we don't know at this point in time. At this moment, that's not as relevant as knowing he wants approval from his family. Urafina wants to get approval to society, to life, to fate, to the cosmos, to the gods, even. I'm going to prove that I'm worthy of a better life. Kirsch has a terrible secret that he needs to keep. Syrav is ambitious and would kill to acquire a noble title. Now, if you are sitting down with 5 people playing this, it's more difficult than if you're going to sit and write a novel about these 5 characters, which I think you could easily do, by the way. To have something be, well, Syrav at the end is going to kill Noirit after Noirit actually gets his family title in order for Syrav to obtain it. But it shows that he is willing to kill to acquire a noble title. And then Elena, I'll do anything to win fame and renown. Anything can be a lot of things, including killing. Including making morally gray decisions. She's kind of like Fujiko of Lupin's gang, right? She's in it for herself, even though she does get along with everyone else. Have you ever thought about turning a campaign into a boom after recording it? I presume you mean a book? Possibly Spillheart. There's a little bit of testing, I'll say, that I want to have out first. And after that, maybe going back and reviewing some of these old campaign outlines and making them more formal as a campaign itself. So going back here, a 1-sentence summary of the plot. The characters are on a morally ambiguous quest to achieve notoriety in Waterdeep. I think that's a very good summary of what can bond them together, despite their difference in alignments. Again, we have 2 chaotic, evil halflings in this party. It doesn't mean they're just going to stab someone the first chance they get, especially if it means hanging out with them is going to get them even closer and easier to their own goals. What does it mean, half your level? Depending on the wording of your ability, it's either going to be 2 or 3. Your ability will say half your level rounded down or half your level rounded up, depending on what it is. You do round down normally. However, there are some instances where you would round up if it comes to something about your class. So now let's create off of this one sentence a paragraph-long summary. Keeping it brief. Paragraphs, 3-4 sentences, maybe 5. If a good test is when King starts like shaking and emitting heat, we are getting towards the cap of our paragraph length. So let's see if I can practice brevity. Noirit gathers the services of others in order to prove himself to his family. Together they delve through political intrigue in Waterdeep, which leads them to a cult who are summoning devils. They'll have to fight through the rift to seal it and save the city, winning honors should they survive. Probably run down unless your DM really likes you. I would always assume round down unless it says otherwise. Red squiggly lines, says King. King, do you go through a lot of red pens? Well, I guess you work digitally. Spillheart, I'm too tired to set an alarm. It's just a little touch on your phone, man. You got this. I'm lending you my energy, Spillheart. Noirit gathers the services of the others in order to prove himself to his family. Together, they delve through political intrigue in Waterdeep, which leads them to a cult who are summoning devils. They'll have to fight through the rift to seal it and save the city, winning honors should they survive. Paragraph-long summary of our characters and ultimately what we want them to do through our plot. Now, in step 3 of the Snowflake Method here. Remember, we're starting with our core. Now let's build outward. Let's have our ice crystals start forming and spreading. Summarize each character by name, storyline, goal, conflict, and an epiphany that they are going to meet somewhere along the lines. Because all of this, especially if you're writing a novel, but you can still take these concepts and leave them as open-ended goals to achieve sometime over the course of your campaign. Spillheart did it. You touched your phone. You got it done. Have a good night, Spillheart. Have a good sleep. Thank you for joining us. At least one of these dudes needs to have been kicked out of the cult or refused entry. So, Roger. Something... I think we have connections based on our conversation the other day about the characters. Woo update, still in Cedar Point traffic, but almost to the park exit. I have some stories about getting stuck in Cedar Point traffic. There's employee dorms that are along the road on the way out of the park. And sometimes the employees decide to be amorous. And sometimes employees forget to close the blinds to their room when there's an entire line of traffic standing still outside of it. You just passed the toll booths now. You got this, Dark Wolf. I know you can survive. Exhibitionist, perhaps? Caught up in the moment? Otherwise? Definitely, for sure. But sometimes you see things, huh? You see some things. Yes, Cedar Point. Cedar Point. And sometimes cell phone footage gets posted to a particular site. All these facts are connected. Yes, indeed, Pneumonica. Not that I've posted any cell phone footage, but I have stories to share. 12 says they knew. On an unrelated note, that dormitory I think is going to get torn down this winter. Though in fairness, it's like a 100-year-old hotel that they converted to employee dorms, but it's in prime real estate on the peninsula. So I think they're going to tear it down and expand the park because they're building new employee apartments off point to bus the employees up to the park. Civil Hermit. Thank you for the hosts, by the way, but it's awesome to see you here in person, such as it exists on Twitch. I just read a novel about Waterdeep, Death Masks. Asmodeus was a fairly fashionable devil to worship among quite a few wealthy houses. I think we're getting that direction. Look, especially after we cracked open a couple boxes of Dragon Heist, we're pulling Cambion Devils, we're pulling Pit Fiends. The Warlocks are Warlocks of the Fiend. I think we're onto something. But yeah, hey Civil, it's good to have you back. Welcome. Alright, so name, storyline, goal, conflict, epiphany. There we go. Spillheart, I think they bought Sawmill Creek. I haven't heard that Cedar Point bought Sawmill Creek. They're expanding that sports field out by Huron. Civil says it's been a heck of a summer. Also, I've been sleeping at night for a change. Well, I mean, look, not that I ever expect and demand you here, but it is good to see you. I'm glad that you had a good and hopefully a productive summer. That you had fun, you worked. Maybe you got a little bit of a summer nest egg tucked away for whatever you have coming up. 12 is not going to miss the summer, to be honest. I will, but I really enjoy autumn weather, and winter is my favorite season, so everything's on an upswing, in my opinion. Okay, Swifty, if it's making sense to you and your DMs are allowing it, that's fine. You know, you can bring a lot of flavor. What level is this campaign going to be taking place at? Oh, you heard it through the grapevine. Ooh. All right. So when it says storyline, these are the events that we want Noirite Bannister, who is clearly not Tyrion Lannister, to accomplish over the course of our module or our campaign. Too hot and too many fires for your liking. Oh, are you living in a wildfire area, 12 for 10? Everyone's at level 5? Gotcha. The Doctor. Hello, welcome to you. Thank you for dropping by. Oh, gotcha. Well, I hope that you have been able to stay safe, 12 for 10. Alright, so let's go back to Noirite Bannister. The common folk love him. No one could doubt by looking at his regal bearing that I am a cut above the unwashed masses. Responsibility, it is my duty to respect the authority of those above me, just as those below me must respect mine. I will face any challenge to win the approval of my family. And in fact, the world does revolve around me. So I think we're seeing a bit of a line of redemption, that he may overcome that flaw. And perhaps in so doing, he can end up winning the approval of his family. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so everyone's just going to be level 5 because it's a one-shot. Okay, Swifty. Yes, he does seem to be a more than a bit of a narcissist. He does feel that he is self-important. Or that he takes his noble title for granted, and instead of earning things with it, he just demands that it be used, and it doesn't seem to be working out too well for him. For NPCs, kind of, Doctor? Over the course of the week, we've made 5 characters completely randomly. And now we're weaving them together as a party, and then we're going to make a campaign outline around them as well. So no one's playing the characters that we made, so in a broad sense, they're NPCs, but we're approaching this from the point of view that they are PCs, and we want to weave their stories together. No, so what we're developing this for is not going to be for Dragon Heist. So you don't have to worry about any spoilers about that. Yes, Noirite, he is going to learn some humility. So, Noirite, again, who is clearly not Tyrion spelled backwards. Hey, Rin, good to see you. Noirite begins as a haughty young noble, enforcing his role and seeking approval of others to leverage himself higher, thusly placing more people beneath him. He will go on to recruit some rather shady characters to help him plan a big job off of some rumors he has heard regarding other nobles. He sees nobility as a zero-sum game. So as many as he can knock down, he will rise that many social rungs higher. After playing the game of nobles, whatever, he realizes he is in over his head. By the way, that's not just a short joke, because we have a complete party of short stacks. A hill dwarf, 2 lightfoot halflings, a rock gnome, and a forest gnome. Fun fact, a divine tattoo artist also gave me a real cool scorpion mark that I can control any scorpion with. But I live in a tropic zone entirely bereft of scorpions. Life is harsh sometimes. Dark Wolf, you're getting there. You're getting closer. Yes, yes. A neutral evil and a neutral good. We have Noirite Bannister, a chaotic good male hill dwarf, College of Whispers bard, with a noble background. Then we have a chaotic evil male lightfoot halfling, Gloomstalker ranger. He used to serve in the military, and he feels like he has something to prove, and especially a secret to hide. Then we have Cyrav Droll, who is clearly not Lord Varus backwards. Chaotic evil male lightfoot halfling, a war wizard, who is also, by the way, a jewel cutter in a merchant's guild, which is actually Xanathar's guild, I think, as we were talking about them, the characters the other day. Then we have Elena de Moira, a neutral evil female rock gnome, Circle of Dreams druid, who turned out very organically to be a courtesan, an escort, someone who gets information in very creative ways. Wink. And then lastly, we made a neutral good female forest gnome, who is a multi-classed Horizon Walker ranger and war wizard, from an urchin background. And so we created a backstory for her that she grew up chasing oozes through the sewers of Waterdeep and stumbled across, well, something we're going to get to in the storyline. That's going to help explain how she's a Horizon Walker. And as for her being a war wizard, she was taken in by Cyrav and given some teachings because she shows such good potential. So that Cyrav is actually going to be her mentor. Xanathar runs the Jewelers Guild. Why are there no jewels heists in Waterdeep? Because Xanathar already owns them. Yeah, suddenly all the Thieves Guilds are very... they're curious. There's been no heists. What's going on? And they start panicking. But we kind of had that... we have the Jewel Cutters as code for the guild. And so they are a branch of Xanathar's guild. Bubonic One, oh my gosh, welcome, man. Hey, all. Yeah, oh, geez. Oh, that's right, you did move further south, didn't you, Bubonic One? Moved right into the path of it, too. Oh, yeah. Well, I hope that you're safe and you're well, Bubonic. It's awesome seeing you back here, man. And Darkwolf is now on the road home. Safe travels and swift travels, Darkwolf. The Thieves Guild is on strike. They're demanding better pay. All right, so he sees nobility as a zero-sum game, so as many can knock him down, he'll rise. After playing the game of nobles, he realizes he's in over his head as a cadre of influential nobles who can easily squash him, are seen conducting a diabolic ritual. This is all he needs to achieve his goal, comma, if only he found a way to pursue it. That's a big paragraph, but it is what it is. He was hoping for one of your two favorite classes, Swashbuckler Rogue or Zealot Barbarian. We didn't end up randomly rolling them, Doc, but we might end up doing a Xanathars again some other time, and hopefully those will come up. But the characters you see, Doctor, they were randomly rolled. Most, if not all, aspects of them were done through random number generation. And then it was up to us. We challenged ourselves to make them into living, breathing, three-dimensional characters that exist and have purpose and rationale and so on and so forth. Still dropping rain like crazy? Well, I guess better dropping rain than hail or sharks or cows or many other things storms can pick up. You really like Zealot Barbarians too. His goal: to expose the nobles responsible for conducting business with devils. His conflict: seeing the lengths that nobles go through in order to have the same power that he covets and hopes to hold someday. Did you randomize all the numbers or just a class and race? What did you do, the randomization? Doc, we used this. So we started with the gender and or if it's a multi-class character. We then rolled through the races, alignment, special considerations if something was evil and came up as a cleric or paladin. We then rolled at which level we would generate the character. If they would be replacing ASIs with feats, we then rolled which of the backgrounds they would be. Then we would determine which class they were, and specifically then in each of the classes, which archetype. Now, we replaced the archetypes here with Xanathar's Guide, but you get the idea for what we're doing. After that, we gave them random height and weight, and then we rolled to see where in their life cycle they are. Are they young, old, etc.? And then we rolled for their age. You left almost all your stuff in New York? U-Haul was going to cost you $1,500 if I didn't want to bring stuff north. Oh. From up north, yeah. Ooh. Doc, this is something that we made for use in our channel. If you hop onto our Discord, I can put a link up there. I can do it during our break after we finish developing our characters. Your character will not let the main enemies live. He always wants them dead. If they want them to live when I'm getting hit, I will kill them. You have determination. You're doing You said you had something like a 29-page backstory. That's dedication. If you're only doing a one-shot Swifty, you're putting a lot of time and effort into the character. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way. Just remember that you are going into a one-shot. I don't know how long it's going to last. If you guys do marathon sessions of 12, 15, 18 hours, or if you're going to get together on a Saturday night, eat a pizza, and play for 4, just bear that in mind also for your character. I bet U-Haul gouges like crazy in advance of a disaster. Oh, you know what, Fluffy? That I did not consider that, but there might be, yeah, demand might play a part in that. All right. Noirit needs an epiphany. Perhaps some kind of a redemption or a realization that will turn him around and be a better person. Let's take a look here. He thinks the world revolves around him. Perhaps he learns to be content with life and not seek to rush or undermine others, as that will make him a devil, not a noble. Oh. Yep. Okay, I got you, Swifty. Thank you for that. Thank you for that shout out, Pneumonica, for what we do here. Okay, now let's continue. So that's Noirit Bannister and what we want to do with him in the campaign. Next up, we have Kirsch the Tank Daesh. Ah, got you, Bubonic. That is convenient. Still a college town you moved. Bubonic, are you going to be doing firefighter work in your new location? What are your plans, if you don't mind my asking? If it's personal, you don't have to talk about it. Alright, so his storyline, remember, he has a terrible secret that he has to keep. He is a former soldier, and he has seen things. In fact, he can stare down a hellhound without flinching. So he carried a banner for someone. And you know, as we were talking when we were discussing Waterdeep and such, you know, is he a Zhentarim mercenary? Is he a part of the Doom Raiders? Did he combat cults and elemental evil? Is he a member of the Grey Hands through Blackstaff? You know, some kind of elite adventurer. Well, in the context of what we have going on here, what if it was something along these lines? That he had served under a major noble house as a color guard. And his unit was there when his noble employer had summoned a devil and was willing to sacrifice his guards to it for power. If any of you have seen a Red Berserk, this might sound familiar. Looking for a job to hold you over till January. Oh, gotcha. All right, Bubonic. Well, I hope you find something in the interim. And Dark Wolf is now home. Hooray and huzzah. He had served under a major noble house as a color guard, and his unit was there when his noble employer had summoned a devil and was willing to sacrifice his guards to it for power. Having lived and escaped, he honed his bitterness and turned it back on those who wronged him. He now seeks to get revenge on this noble and all others who would treat others like devil's food. Honed his bitterness. Sounds like you, Rin. You have work in the morning. You're very cross about the schedule. Well, if you got to go to bed, Dark Wolf, you got to go to bed. I understand. His wolf was why real like dog. My dog was half golden lab, wolf pit bull, but my DM made her into a white wolf. I mean, getting into stats and whatnot, if you stat it after a wolf, you can palette swap it to be whatever you'd like it to be. His goal is going to be pretty straightforward. Kill the noble who was responsible for his, or for the death of his companion, or I guess companions, or for his fellow guardsmen. Now the question becomes the conflict he faces. Staring down and braving that very same hellhound that savaged him and his friends. Realizing that perhaps as much as he was bitter about what happened, it still left him small and frail. And remember, we're using exactly what we randomly rolled for the character. And his epiphany. Killing his way back from the wilds for revenge makes him no better than the noble who fed his friends to the devil for power. How about that? Next up, we have Cyrav Droll. His storyline. He sticking with him. He yearns for power, titles, and money. He is very straightforward. And is willing to do almost anything to achieve more wealth or influence inside of Xanathar's guild. As far as a character concept goes, he is very straightforward. And there's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't even need to be a two-dimensional character or a flat character. He can be a round character. But he doesn't need a bunch of complex political intrigue. He is in it for himself, he's in it for advancement, and that's really all he needs. He, being a chaotic evil character, he is spontaneous, and he is selfish. Now, our other character, Kirsch, was the same, but they're approaching their chaotic evilness in different fashions. Is this guy smart to a fault so he can't stand it when he is wrong and refuses to accept defeat? Possibly? I don't think he has a plan per se. I think his spontaneity as a part of his nature wouldn't have him plan. So therefore he's constantly opportunistic. I think that would be a better way to put it, Doctor. He is constantly opportunistic and is willing to do what it takes in order to within reason. His one tenet is do not violate his guild's laws. His guild's laws, mind you. Now, his guild is the Gem Cutters, and as we fluffed it out when we were doing some background stuff, the Gem Cutters, or the Jewel Cutters, are a halfling criminal faction in Xanathar's guild that focus on these sort of activities. But this guild is what saved him, perhaps from being a destitute orphan. And so, despite his impulsive nature, this is the one thing he clings on to. He yearns for power, titles, and money. He is very straightforward and is willing to do almost anything to achieve more wealth and influence inside of Xanathar's guild. His goal? He is willing to kill for a noble title, if necessary. And this job can make just such a thing possible. At the very least, deposing a standing noble family or two will increase his gem cutter rank and or fill his purse. His conflict. All right, see you later, Bubonic One. It was awesome seeing you again, man. Be safe, be well, and check in when you can. It was nice to see you again. Conflict? some of the nobles, or perhaps all of them, through support of some kind by Xanathar's guild, are conducting these diabolic rituals, which he has no moral qualms with themselves. Just that his opportunity is... This is a big parenthetical phrase. I gotta redo this. Otherwise, King is just gonna have like a bulging vein in the side of his forehead here. Which he has no moral qualms with themselves, just that his opportunity is so close to being realized, yet so far as it means defying his only tenant. Some of the nobles, or perhaps all of them through support of some kind by Xanathar's guild, comma, are conducting these diabolic rituals. Period. And then he has no moral qualms with devils themselves, just that his opportunity is so close to being realized, yet so far as it means defying his only tenant. Would he abandon the guild for a chance at a noble title? Aha! This is the big question. As we want to progress the campaign, and we want to try and highlight the peaks and valleys of each of our PCs. So, you know, put on your DM cap for a minute too, Doctor. What would his epiphany be? Would his epiphany be that maybe the guild doesn't care about him as much as he cares about himself, his own goals, or even that of being fulfilled by his apprentice? The guild doesn't care about him as much as he cares about himself, his own goals, or even that of being fulfilled. Because you know what? As they stumble across this diabolic ritual taking place, he might see that things that he thought were individual pacts made with him by Xanathar or members of his guild have been shared rather freely with others. In fact, he might even see that he paid dues that might have been turned around and then offered to this guild to summon devils for other, to make more money in something. And so he could even though he's a chaotic, evil person, I don't care about devil summoning, that doesn't matter, I'm in this for me. He's very selfish and impulsive. He might see then that he has been used this whole time. And the one thing that this otherwise unrepentantly evil, selfish person abides by is the one thing that actually is the thorn in his side. It's his greatest point of despair. It makes him question everything about his life. Oh, excellent, Doctor. Well, I'm glad that you are. Then you're getting some behind-the-scenes stuff about how to go about plotting for a game. Next up, we have Elena. Doctor, thank you very much for that follow. I appreciate it. Thank you for finding us, and I'm glad you're taking some enjoyment in this. Elena de Moira. Now remember, her one sentence here: I'll do anything to win fame or renown. Now, as we generated Elena de Moira, she is a very high-end courtesan. She's a druid. The Circle of Dreams druid. She's a courtesan. She courts nobles. She entertains, or as we rolled, she is a entertainer, but for her brand, she is a gladiator tumbler by profession. And she has information, and she seeks, right? She wants to do anything to win more fame and renown. And in fact, it wasn't so much an unrequited love, but one of the nobles that she actually started to have feelings for, which is dangerous in her profession, ended up possibly dying. And so she actually felt love and not just the need to make money or to perform services rendered. And yet it was denied her this one time out of all of the people that she has escorted or advised or been a masseuse or whatever for. The one person she actually loved is out of her reach. And that just sort of sent her further down on this profession. Perhaps a little embittered, or to say, you know what, I'm gonna rise to the top, and people are gonna love me. As she that concept of love grew bitter to her. See, nobody stays angry at me or around me for long since I can diffuse any amount of tension. I'm a hopeless romantic, always searching for that special someone. The world is in need of new ideas and bold action, so this could be something to consider. My instrument is my most treasured possession. It reminds me of someone I love. And I'll do anything to win fame and renown. The trinket that she was given as a token from her lost lover here, we randomly rolled number 27. It's a piece of broken obsidian that always remains warm. In a way, Doctor, but here's the thing: is given her profession, she's feeding, she's symbiotic to the nobles. Now she can, if she wants to, she's not above killing someone. Right? She'll do anything for it. So she probably does keep poisons and daggers and whatnot around her her office. Wink. She's probably not above blackmailing people either. Storyline. Her most precious gift may in fact be the key that the diabolic cult needs to summon their patron fully. It was given to her not just as a token of love, but rather by her then lover, to prevent his noble family from fully realizing the devil's manifestation. She seeks to bargain with the devil for the return of her lost love. And punish the other nobles who had him killed for his defection. Her goal: infiltrate the circle of cultists, I guess of noble cultists, and use the information she has on them in order to bargain for her love's soul. Now, something to consider for the campaign or for our character personally. What would be her conflict? Do you have there? I mean, I could type, but if there are any ideas out there that you want to throw out as the audience as we're going along this journey with this character, what is going to be her personal conflict? Is it is it coming to terms with loss, realizing that, just because she has other people, warm her sheets on any given night as a profession, it's not actually fulfilling. She has gems and silks and jewels and popularity. Now we're kind of dipping into epiphany also. But what's the conflict? Is the conflict really... Is it external with an enemy, or is it internal? There's a... bringing back her love versus taking down the cultists. Well, she's probably neutral towards the cultists. In fact, she would want the cultists to try and summon this devil as much as they can, and then present this piece of obsidian to it, and so she's the one who summons it, or whatnot. Moving on versus taking a shade of what her lover was. The value and meaning of life and our half measures truly fulfilling in regards to her career, or even the possibility of her lover's shade. Realizing that monarchies are a terrible form of government. That's the epiphany. Technically, Waterdeep isn't a monarchy. As far as anyone knows, anyway. When presenting the stone, she gets to make that choice about what life or love really is and means. Her epiphany: there is a larger world out there, even beyond portals to hell. She has spent all these years cooped up, even in a large city. And yet, while celebrating life, you can imagine that she's had a lot of food, she's had a lot of different drinks, heard a lot of stories, she's tumbled with a lot of different people. She's never lived life. She's experienced portions of it, but she's never really done it herself, right? If she's this courtesan, she sends people to get stuff. She goes in prearranged meetings or whatnot. There's a larger world out there, even beyond portals to hell. She has spent all these years cooped up, even in a large city, and yet while celebrating life, has never actually lived it. It's time to move on. That was brought up when we were doing the character creation. Something like that was brought up, Doctor. Why would you ever need more than a portal to hell, asks Fluffy Sheep. Waterdeep has an almost Roman Republic style of government. Just with a few extra, magical masks and things along those lines. All right, lastly, we have Urafina, and that's her name. Well, some people call her Stinky, but we have Urafina. Now, as we look at her her summary, I'm going to prove that I'm worthy of a better life. So, she was an orphan. She grew up on the streets or under the streets of Waterdeep, right? She learned to hunt down oozes and whatnot, and when she was young, she actually stumbled across this underground ceremony. And that's what partially led her on the path to become a Horizon Walker, which mechanically are rangers that kind of hunt down portals and try and close off these gates to other realms. However, because we rolled her multi-class, and again, this was all random, Doctor, especially for you, we rolled that she was a ranger wizard, and of course, wizard is war wizard, because that's the only type of wizard in Xanathar's. And so it made sense that here we have this manipulative, selfish war wizard who would have taken her in and taught her the ways as an apprentice. So she's this Horizon Walker ranger because she has these natural talents, and she may have gotten sort of a dose of exposure of the portal when she was kind of Selena Kyling her way through Waterdeep, and happened upon, as everyone does in the DC universe, a horrible industrial chemical accident that gave her powers. Or thereabouts, right? Did she have any friends? Did a friend get used in a sacrifice? Alright, so we'll review her personality here. She doesn't like to bathe. I sleep with my back to a wall or tree with everything I own wrapped in a bundle in my arms. I'm going to prove that I'm worthy of a better life. That's her aspiration. I owe my survival to another urchin who taught me to live on the streets. And what is that other urchin? Could that be her mentor, or could that other urchin actually have something happen? Maybe both of them were exploring and they came across this ritual, and this other urchin could have been caught and sacrificed. And she stayed behind. She hid in the sewer grate. I will never fully trust anyone other than myself. Storyline. Taken in by Cyrav to be a wizard's apprentice. She also uses her exposure to portals and her hunting instinct to... I misspelled... Yeah, it's 2 C's, isn't it? Oh, it's 2 N's. Reconnoiter. To reconnoiter the activities of others who would harm innocents, like her sacrificed friend. While not trusting him, she is rather naive to his true purpose and feeds him information upon which he acts, and takes her along for protection. Goal: to end the circle of nobles who are calling on devils and feeding others to them who are otherwise innocent. I'd like to knowledge local to know what reconnoiter means. You think that's a knowledge local? Is that a swanky Waterdeep term, orcs? And also, orcs make beautiful lovers. Not only are you correct, but welcome. You're going to ask around. Conflict. How about this, Doctor? You ready? The temporary body that the cult uses as a host for the devil is her friends, that she must kill fully in order to stop. Yet the devil still keeps her friend alive and thinking. He remembers her and all that they did together before he was used as a vessel. Right? You have a young kid taken, this devil was put into him perhaps years ago, and so the devil is feeding off of his young body, or the young body can adapt and be a better host for a devil because it's fresher, it's more mobile. Who'd suspect she's grown up, but maybe the kid still looks like a kid. So not only does she have to kill her friend, who's the vessel for this devil, but also he looks the same as he did on that fateful day. We orcs call them sneaky boys. Fluffy sheep, it means to reconnaissanceify. Reconnaissanceify. What a beautiful phrase! Reconnaissanceify. It ain't no passing craze. It means go check it out for the rest of your days. And her epiphany. You know what? If she's naive, not that it's a bad ending. Does everyone always have a good ending? What if this actually turns her into a bitter person? What if this then hardens her heart? And after this campaign, when it ends, we imagine that she goes off to hunt devils. And she becomes the next generation of this closed and bitter person. Epiphany. The world is cruel, and I shouldn't seek its approval. Because she would then be as bad as everyone else. Right? She can never fully trust anyone other than herself. Well, what if the two are interlinked, Doctor? What if she doesn't have that choice? Now, as a DM, maybe you would offer that as a choice to your players. And there could be a good, there could be a bad to either decision. Or, you know what? It doesn't always have to be balanced. One could be double plus good, and the other one is double plus not good. Or double plus ungood, I should say. Or use the devil to rock and roll. That's right, throw up the horns. That's this group's secret sign to attack. You know, the one's in a sewer pipe across the pit where they're summoning this, the other's in the other one, and you just see them all raise their hands up like this and give silent acknowledging head bobs. Sympathy for the devil, Fluffy Sheep says. I meant allow the friend to live, but you banish him with the devil still inside. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. If you don't want to take care of it, you're only putting the problem off until the next time it can be summoned. And you know that the devil's going to get summoned again by someone, somewhere, at some other point in time. And don't forget, Doctor, other party members probably will just want to kill this devil because there's no connection. Also, what about Elena that has this valuable piece of obsidian that does something to manifest this devil? What if Urafina wants to save the child, but Elena wants to plunge the obsidian into its heart to complete the ritual? Orcs asks, what would be the paladin equivalent in this situation, Fluffy Sheep? You're guessing Holy Diver. Are we talking the old NES game, Orcs Make Beautiful Lovers? Okay. We have an awesome start. I'm going to get up and take a little bit of a break. And when we come back, we are going to finish the final steps in our Snowflake Method story creation for this campaign that we're making. At least this outline or this concept for our characters. Remember, we're doing a bit of role-playing ourselves. We're role-playing as if we're DMs and as PCs. As PCs, we're getting together and talking about our characters. As a DM, we're looking at the party and saying, okay, here's the story that I want to present. In fact, my one sentence summary, the characters are on a morally ambiguous quest to achieve notoriety in Waterdeep. The entirety of our campaign is based on this one sentence. Everything that happens should take us one step closer to achieving this as our goal. And then, of course, we made a paragraph of it here. When we come back from break, we're going to expand each sentence on the paragraph-long summary into its own paragraph. And now we're going to get a nice one-page summary of the story and generally how we want it to play out, which is then going to feed back into refining the characters a little bit. And then we come to a conclusion of some kind. Dark Wolf counts Fluffy Sheep. Fluffy Sheep counts 1. 1 Fluffy, 2 Fluffy, 3 Fluffy. Alright, everyone. So let's take 5-10 minutes. We'll meet back up here. Get a snack. Use the restroom. Get a drink. Get comfy. Keep your brain turning. Is this compelling to you? Is this getting you to think? Are you excited about this? Even though this is technically a campaign none of us are running in, does this have you excited and thinking about options for yourself? For a character you want to play or a game that you want to run? Hopefully.